Hello and welcome back to Let's Read. Today's video is going to be the book that I am going to be reading for January. But before I get into that, I want to welcome all my new subscribers, and I want to let you know how things go on this channel when I'm reading books. Okay, so I read every other month beginning in January. So January, I'll read a book on camera. February, I won't. March, I will. April, I won't, and so on and so on. So you will see me read 6 books on camera and how many I'll read off camera. Okay, so when I read a book, I read about 30 to 45 minutes. Most likely it's 30, depending on how long the chapters are. And as I read the book, if I run across any words that I don't know how to pronounce or I don't know the definition of it, I will have a definition portion after I finish reading the chapter. So that would be at the end of me reading the chapter. Okay. And if there's any type of content warning, I will warn you on whether it's explicit language, if it has some type of trigger warning or something like that, but that will be in the title of the video. So it'll say chapter 1, chapter 2, and if it's a definition, it'll have the letter D behind it. And if there's any warning, you should see the warning symbols, and it'll say content warning up there in the title. Okay, so, what else do I do? Oh, I release my chapters, depending on how good the book is. I will release it at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time and or 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's and or because if the book is like 31 chapters and the month is 31, I'll probably release 1 chapter a day. But if the book is good and we need to know what's going on, or it's a lot of chapters, like 48 chapters, then I'll try to release 3:30. One or 2 chapters 3:30, or 1 or 2 chapters at 6:30, so we can keep it flowing, keep it moving. Okay, and I also add my opinions and my thoughts as I'm reading the book. So it's like sitting down reading the book, and you have your own feelings. You be like, oh, what? So I just want to let you know I do that. It's not like a regular old kind of audio book. So you'll get my reactions and feelings and thoughts and questions and all of that as I'm reading it. At first, I thought I wasn't going to do it, but I decided to go ahead and do it because that's just how it is with me reading my books over here. Okay, so that's all that I do for all my new subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate you. And like I mentioned in my video, I do need 50 subscribers in order to go live. And go live would be like if we really like the book and we want to talk about it, then I can go live and we can talk about it together versus me just talking about it by myself. But you can also put questions in, your thoughts and your feelings in the comments, and we'll talk about it that way. Okay, so enough of about what I do. Now I have a confession. Okay, so in my Help Me Choose What Book to Read video, I listed 6 books, and in the comments, a lot said to choose this book. Okay, and my confession is I recorded videos for chapter 1 through 4. It's not hitting. It's not a romance. I can't even describe what it is. It's just unnecessarily for 4 whole chapters, it was just the fact that a man kept coming out of the attic, going up, changing, coming up, changing. And I felt like it wasn't going to be anything romantic about it. So I decided to switch the book and go with another one that was mentioned. Now this one has a romance sticker, so we're going to say that that's a romance. This one does not, so it's not a romance. So I have now been talking for 5 minutes, almost 5 minutes. So I am now getting ready to go to the next clip to start reading this book. See you there. Okay, and welcome back. As I mentioned in the intro, this is the book that I will be reading. It is As You Wish by Jude Deveraux. Okay, this is technically in a series. This is the number 3 book of the Summer House series. Okay, this book was copyrighted in 2018. It has 619 pages and it's 31 chapters with an epilogue. Okay, let's get ready for not chapter 1, the prologue. Langley, Virginia, 1970. Get strong, get tan, think you're smart enough to do those two things, kid? The man was as tall as Kit, a couple of inches over 6 feet, but he was very wide. Kit wondered if 3 of himself glued side by side would be as wide as this officer. With his short black hair, he looked like a cartoon bear. Yes, sir. Kit's back was so straight it was like steel. And when we pick you up in the fall, if you pull your pants down, I don't want to see your shiny white ass. Do I make myself clear? Yes, sir. I'm to sunbathe in the nude. As soon as he said the words, he knew they were wrong. They sounded too enlisted, too much like he was who he was, which was not one of the guys. His father didn't lube cars. Dad had stopped a couple of tribal wars in the Middle East, but that wasn't something Kit could brag about. When the big man leaned closer, as much as Kit wanted to step away, he didn't. Was that a remark? A joke? Are you laughing at me, kid? No, sir. Kit practically yelled the words. Sweat was running down the back of his neck. It was 6 a.m. and he'd been pulled out of an early training session to go to this man's office. But he hadn't minded. At 19, he was the youngest of the recruits, some of whom had spent a couple of years in Vietnam, and he'd been hassled the most. You been weaned yet, kid? Potty trained? Miss your mommy, do you? A few years back, I had one nighter with a girl named Montgomery. Think could be your daddy? The fuck? Kit had smiled through it all, but each barb had made him more determined to do a job that he was uniquely qualified for. The big man took a step back from Kit. You, bathe. His tone made fun of the word. However you want to, but in September, I want you and that big nose of yours looking like you've always lived in the desert. Do I make myself clear? Yes, sir, you do. The man took another step back and looked Kit up and down in contempt, like all his father's family. Kit was tall and lean, built more like a runner than this guy, who could probably bench press cars. I don't know what they were thinking when they got you, he muttered. You're just a boy, and you're so skinny you could slide through a keyhole. He shook his head. Do I have to remind you that no one, not even your famous daddy, is to know what some idiot picked you out to do? No, sir, you don't. You think, Montgomery, that you can hang around your kinfolk and not tell them why you are, what did you call it, sunbathing in the nude? I won't be with them, sir. Kit wasn't looking at the man directly, but staring over his shoulders. Oh, that's right. The man had a sneer in his voice. You're rich, own lots of houses, do you? Kit wasn't sure if he was supposed to answer that or not. Some time ago, he realized that he couldn't spend the summer before he shipped out with his family. They were too perceptive and too nosy. They'd know he was up to something, and they'd do whatever was necessary to find out what it was. And knowing them, they just might make sure it didn't happen. No one was to know that he was training to go undercover in Liberia. A young man named Moore, it's a Muslim name, not trying it, had just taken over the country, and Kit was to find out what he planned to do. Thanks to his life with his diplomatic father, Kit was fluent in Arabic in all its dialects, from the classic to the Lebanese that was half French to the Arabic spoken by the Saudis that came from inside a person's throat. He knew them all. And Kit had inherited the hawk nose of his father's family and the dark eyes of the Italian ancestry of his mother. With a tan and in the right clothes, he could sit in a sulk, smoke a bubble pipe, and no one would pay any attention to him. Months ago, one of his father's friends, a former American ambassador of Syria, had spent a week in their house in Cairo. Kit had seen the man watching him as he played kickball with Egyptians, ate from the street vendor, and as he got into a loud argument in Arabic with a cab driver. Just before the ambassador left, he asked to speak to Kit in private. He started by asking if Kit would like to help his country. It had been a dramatic opening that appealed to Kit's deep patriotism. Without hesitation, he said yes. It hadn't been easy to lie to his family and say he wanted to take a year off from college to bum around the world. Only his father seemed to guess the truth. He stared at his son for a while, then said, "What can we do to help you prepare for this trip?" "Get me away from here," Kit said before he thought, but his father had nodded in understanding. 2 days later, Kit received an invitation to spend the summer in Tatwell, an old plantation owned by relatives of his mother, the Tattingtons. When Kit was silent at the question, the big man waved his hand. "Go on, get out of here. Just remember that I'll be one of them that picks you up, and you better be fit and dark. Now go." The next night, Kit arrived in Summer Hill, Virginia. The next day, he looked into the eyes of the woman he would love for the rest of his life. But Miss Olivia Paget didn't feel the same way about him. In fact, she felt exactly the opposite. As though his life depended on it, Kit worked to change her mind. Okay. Y'all ready? Chapter 1. Summer Hill, Virginia, present day. Regret. Olivia thought as she looked about the little restaurant. On a TV talk show she'd seen that morning, the young, perfect-looking interviewer, her hair unnaturally shiny, asked the old actor if he had any regrets about his long life in show business. Of course he said no. He had a great life and wouldn't change a thing. What else could he say? That he regretted his marriage to wife number 2, who took everything he worked for during his 40 years in film? That he wished he hadn't made the 3 really bad horror movies when he was broke? What about the 12 years he wasted when he was in a drugged out alcoholic stupor? But then the critics agreed that he was a better actor when he was drunk. After rehab, he became serious and dull. A co-star notoriously said that bourbon seemed to be his fuel of joy, but he said he regretted nothing. I'll drink to that, Olivia thought. What would she say if that interviewer, her dress tighter than the skin of a snake and about the same size, asked Olivia what she regretted in her life? Sex, she'd say. I missed out on those precious years of young sex. Shoved up against a wall, slamming away in the front seat of a car with the gear shift ramming into your back, sweat dripping off your noses, the sun coming up and you've been at it all night. And the next day, you're so sore you can hardly walk. That's what I regret missing in life. One summer of it was not enough. She imagined the interviewer's face, her HD makeup that made her look plastic freezing in place. Would she be stern and say, "That's not what you're supposed to answer"? Would the network bleep out whatever Olivia had said? Would Robin Williams smile down from heaven and say, "You go, girl"? To Olivia, one of the great mysteries of life was why young people believed that sex Wants, needs, thoughts, craving, any and all of it disappeared with age. When did a person go from being hot to cute? They're such a cute couple. That's what kids automatically said about people past the age of. She wasn't sure when that was reached. And at what age were you supposed to forget that you ever had sex? Forget those days you spent naked by the pond, the smell of the grass crushed under your body, the water so warm and seeping into crevices, then him licking it away. Kids were shocked if a person over 50 mentioned anything sexual. At what age did a person revirginalize? Hello? She looked up to see a big, tall young man, at least young to her, mid-30s, possibly older. He was quite good looking, and his eyes had a kind of feral energy that Olivia guessed would get him whatever he wanted. The shirt and the trousers he wore looked casual, but she could tell that they'd been custom made for him. But the smooth outward appearance of him seemed studied, as though he were an actor playing a role. "Are you Miss Montgomery?" His words were spoken in a newscaster's voice with no real accent, but she would put money on it that it wasn't the way he spoke when he was a kid. "I am. And you're from Dr. Hightower?" "Yes. Do you mind?" Politely, he waited for her to motion for him to take the chair across from her. He sat down, then nodded for a waitress to come to him. As Olivia had guessed, the young woman arrived quickly. When he gave his order for black coffee, Olivia was glad to see that his eyes didn't linger on the pretty young waitress, nor did he speak until she left. "Janine, Dr. Hightower, said you would take us to the house." "I will, but we need to wait for other tenants, Elise, to get here. I got a text from her and she should be here in a few minutes." When the waitress put the coffee before the man, she set down a plate of little lemon cookies. "They're on the house. For," she glanced at Olivia, "for both of you." Olivia knew the girl's mother, and it took only a quick squint of her eyes to make the girl go away. When she looked back at the man, she wondered if he was oblivious to the attention of the waitress as he seemed. "I guess Janine told you that I'm Ray Haran. I was told little more than your names, but I did assume that you and Elise are friends." "Oh no," he said. "I've never met my new housemate. There was supposed to be an older woman staying with us, but she dropped out." Olivia couldn't help frowning. "I know that other guest is quite young." "Is she? I have no idea. You know Janine. She tells you little about anything." "Actually, I don't know her. It was my husband, Kit, who asked me to escort you two to the Camden Hall estate." "Estate? That sounds bigger than I thought it was." Janine's summer house is one of 4 small houses on what used to be a fairly grand property. Olivia was concerned about the arrangements. "Does this young woman at least know that she's spending the weekend with a man she's never met?" She gave a pointed look at the wedding ring on his left hand. The way he smiled showed that he knew what was in Olivia's mind. "I don't know what she's been told. None of this was my doing. It took Janine weeks to make me believe I should stop work and go to some cabin nestled in the woods." His eyes widened. "You don't think this is like a dating service, do you? Meant to match me up with some lonely young client of hers?" The way he leaned back in his chair made Olivia think he was going to leave, which would disappoint Kit greatly. "I really don't know anything," she said quickly. "My husband was called away to D.C., and he sent me an email saying a psychologist, Dr. Janine Hightower, was sending 2 of her clients here for a long weekend. He asked if I could please meet you 2 in this restaurant and lead you there. It's not easy to find." Ray frowned. "I don't understand any of this. He took a drink of his coffee and seemed to consider whether or not to confide in her. "I'm having some serious marital problems, and Janine was recommended to me. I've been going to her for weeks, but I haven't made any progress in my decision about what to do. I was planning to quit therapy, but then Janine started nagging me to go to Virginia to spend some time at her summer house. I finally gave in, and here I am. Suddenly, a look of abject terror came onto his face. This isn't one of those retreats, is it? Where I'm supposed to wear a white robe and talk about my feelings? Olivia couldn't help a laugh at the fear in his voice. It's not. The house is a pretty little 3-bed, 3-bath, and it was empty for years. I wasn't even aware that it had been sold. I lived in Summerhill all my life, but I've only been on the grounds of Camden Hall once, and that was many years ago. But now that I live there, you live there, but you've only seen it once? Olivia didn't like talking about her personal life, but she knew she had to say something to keep this man from leaving. In her calmest voice, the one she often used with strangers, she said, "You see, I'm a newlywed." She waited for his astonishment. Young people seemed to think older women were born married. He did look surprised, but he recovered quickly. At our wedding, my husband gave me the deed to a house on the Camden estate. He and I were together years ago when we first saw the old river house on the property, so he knew I liked the place. She paused to remember the blistering hot day when the two of them were naked, young, strong bodies glistening in the sun. She looked back at Ray. My husband brought the house for me, but I didn't see it. We left from the wedding to go on a 6-month-long honeymoon to see the places where he worked during his life as a diplomat. Places I should have seen him. What? Places I should have seen with him, she thought, but didn't say. Kit had almost recently introduced her to people she should have known for the last 40 plus years. As soon as we got back to the U.S., Kit got a call from someone in D.C. and had to leave, so I returned to Summerhill. I spent last night at the house of a friend. After I get you and young Elise settled at Dr. Hightower's house, I'm going to go to the home my husband bought for us. It's at the other end of the estate. He looked at her for a moment, seeming to consider this information. Isn't a groom supposed to carry his bride over the threshold of the new house? If Olivia hadn't asked herself that very thing, she would have laughed. But her disappointment showed on her face. The first time she saw the inside of the house, she wanted to be with Kit. Part of the reason for their long honeymoon had been so the old house could be repaired, painted, and furnished. Every day, they delighted in seeing the photos the decorator and the work crew sent them. They begun with cobwebs and mice, a raccoon in the attic, and 1940 electrical. But underneath the filth had been beautiful old beams and stone fireplace, giant windows that looked out onto the pretty pond with an island in the middle. It was all going to be perfect. But as much as she enjoyed the traveling and buying things for their house, there were times when such deep waves of regret flooded Olivia that she'd been unable to move. Kit and she had known each other for so very long, and they should have been together all that time. She should know the best places to shop in Istanbul. She should be able to speak Arabic because she should have lived with Kit when he was stationed in Egypt. She should. When she looked at Ray, sitting quietly and watching her, his eyes were almost glittering with interest in her every word. It took her a moment to recognize that look. "You're a salesman, aren't you?" Ray let out a laugh that almost sent coffee spewing, but he grabbed a napkin and covered his mouth. "What gave me away?" "A lean and hungry look," she said, quoting Shakespeare. "So what is it that you're using all this concern to try to sell me?" "Stay with us." "What do you mean?" How do you pronounce this name? Janine or Jeanne. I think it's Jeanne. Jian sent me here to give me time to think. When I'm at work in the city or at home with my wife, Kathy, I can't stand back and look at what's going on. Jian says she wants to give me time away so I can make what will be the biggest decision of my life. He paused for a moment. But things have changed. I thought two women were going to be there and they could. Olivia watched him take a cookie and slowly eat it. They could do the cooking and entertain each other so you be free to do whatever you want. Ray laughed. Sure, you're not Janine's sister? So yeah, I'm spoiled. Kathy and I have no kids, so I'm sort of, he shrugged, you're everything to her? Pretty much. Kathy doesn't really have a life of her own. It's just me. So what's wrong? Something at work? Ray took a deep breath. I want a divorce, but I don't know how to tell my wife. Oh, Olivia said, that is a problem. And I can see your need to think long and hard about that. Yeah, but if I'm alone in this house with her, that girl might get the wrong idea about me. It was the opposite of what Olivia had thought. But he did have a point. He seemed to attract women to him. Stay with us, Ray repeated. It's just for a few days. Then when your husband gets back, he can carry you over the threshold, as he should. For a moment, Olivia acted as though she were contemplating the idea. She leaned towards him. Are you dying to ask me if I can cook? Ray was serious. If you can't, I'll be condemned to live on pizza. And mess up that perfect waistline of yours? That would be a true tragedy. Olivia was making jokes to cover what was going on in her mind. When she first saw the fabrics and colors that she and Kit had chosen, she wanted him to be with her. She wanted laughter and memories, she thought. The two of them were in their 60s now. How many years did they have left to make the memories that should have been theirs for the last 40 plus years? She well knew that was time enough for children to grow, for grandchildren to have reached their teen years. But she and Kit had missed out on all of that. Those memories didn't exist. Are you all right? Ray asked. Sure, Olivia said. I think we should wait for Elise to get here before we make any decisions. Good idea, he said. But just so you know, if she's some little lost lamb looking for a daddy figure, I'm out of here. Olivia blinked at what he said, but she knew he was right. She seen the way the waitress glanced at him, that Ray wasn't returning the girl's look of I'm willing if you are, raised him in her estimation. When his phone buzzed, he pulled it from his pocket and looked at the ID. This is Kathy. He was asking her permission to take the call in private. Of course, take your time. When he spoke into the phone, his face changed to one of concern. And unless Olivia missed her guess, there was love. As she watched him go out the side door of the little restaurant, she didn't envy his situation. He was married to a woman who had dedicated her entire life to him. Olivia had seen that many times. The woman had no children, no job, no close friends, so the husband became her reason for living. No doubt every decision she made, everything she did was controlled by, will Ray like this? From Olivia's experience, men tended to like that. Way too often, men demanded that kind of subservience. But she never thought of it from the perspective of a man who didn't want that clingy attention, a man who didn't want a wife who depended on him for everything. Olivia imagined the wife's panic when her husband got home late from work, hysteria at a creaking floorboard, the incessant phone calls, the constant need for his approval. And there would be misery if Ray didn't give her his total attention. Would there be tears over Ray's neglect? I spent all day cooking this dinner and you can't even give me a compliment? As Olivia ate one of the lemon cookies, she thought about Ray's problem. Yes, it would be a difficult decision to leave a woman like that. Walking away from anger would be easier than dealing with all those tears. That's a good point. Oh. Olivia looked out the window to see Ray on his cell phone. He was smiling in a gentle, kind way, as though talking to a dear friend. Yes, he had a very difficult decision in front of him. When she turned away, she saw a young woman enter the restaurant through the front door, and Olivia was sure she was the other tenant. She was in her 20s, tall, thin, and naturally blonde with a very pretty face. She had on worn jeans, a t-shirt, and sandals, the regular attire of her generation. But this girl was different. For one thing, she was perfect. Not just physically perfect, but in that flawless way that only a lifetime of money could achieve. When the girl turned, Olivia looked into her extraordinarily blue eyes and saw nannies and cooks, heavy silver serving pieces, Ivy League schools, and a girls' lacrosse team. It was in that second that Olivia made her decision. Yes, she'd stay at the summer house with Ray and this girl. Maybe he thought he had no interest in other women, but she seen the ambition in his eyes. It was better not to tempt him. The girl came to the table. Are you Miss Montgomery? Yes, I am. Great. I'm Elise Arrington. She dropped her small canvas bag to the floor, took Ray's chair, then saw the coffee cup. Is someone sitting here? Yes, your housemate. Olivia nodded toward the big window. Ray was still on the phone, his handsome face smiling in a sweet way. Olivia watched Elise when she saw Ray. Would she be like the waitress? But the only sign Elise gave was a slight widening of her eyes. She has those deeply ingrained manners, learned from childhood. Olivia thought. He's rather large, isn't he? Elise said. There was a tiny bit of disdain in her voice. Olivia was glad there was no attraction. Excuse me. I don't know if Dr. Hightower told you, but one of the 3 occupants dropped out. Elise leaned forward and lowered her voice. I'm to share a house with just him? Ray asked if I'd mind staying there too, if it's all right with you, that is. Yes, I'd like that. With a sign of relief, Elise turned to the waitress, who made a point of ignoring her. Olivia leaned back against her chair. She wasn't sure if this was getting interesting or if she should run away. Actually, she'd been dreading this time away from her new husband. They hadn't yet figured out what they were going to do with their lives. Kit was retired, sort of, since he still got calls back to D.C. now and then. Olivia had spent most of her life managing some appliance store and trying to make a home for her late husband and his son. She thought she'd done a good job, but on her husband's deathbed, she'd been told that he'd will the store to his son, which meant that she was without a job. Did I read that wrong? Okay, I'm trying to see if I read that wrong, but I didn't. Okay. Olivia watched as Elise got up and went to the counter to place her order. The woman at the register, who Olivia knew owned the little restaurant, apologized for the lack of service. The moment Elise turned away, the owner went to the waitress and snapped at her. When the waitress glared at the back of Elise's head, Olivia had to repress a smile. Ah, the age-old fight for the dominant male. Ray was a man to be won, and the waitress saw Elise as a rival. As Elise sat back down, she nodded towards Ray. Who's he talking to? His wife. Ooh, I'm glad he's married. The owner put a tuna salad sandwich on whole wheat and an iced tea in front of Elise, who thanked her. After the woman left, Elise said, if you don't want to stay, please tell me of a hotel or a B&B in town. I think I'd like to stay with you two, but you should know that Ray seems very nice, not a predator at all. but he's here as part of his therapy, so there has to be something wrong with him. I wonder what he did to get sent here. Not to be unkind, but couldn't the same be said about you? Elise had her mouth full and waited while she chewed. I didn't do anything. Jeanne rescued me from a mental institution. Oh, Olivia tried to keep her eyebrows from going skyward. She wanted to fire questions at the girl. Was she bipolar, schizophrenic? Did she have violent episodes? Should you, she began, but didn't know where to go from there. It's okay, Elise said. I didn't hurt anyone. They think I tried to commit suicide, so they had me locked up. Who did? My parents and my husband. This sandwich is really good, quite fresh. You tried to commit suicide? Olivia's voice was soft and caring. Elise took a long drink of her tea. No, I didn't. I was so angry at my husband, Kent, that I couldn't sleep, so I took one of his sleeping pills. What I didn't know is that he had crushed 4 of them and put them in the drink he made for me. When I woke up in the hospital, Kent was crying and begging me to forgive him for slipping me the extra pills and nearly killing me. I told him I wanted a divorce. And the next minute, in came my parents with a therapist who was telling them that I tried to commit suicide. My throat was so raw I couldn't talk, but I looked to Kent to tell them the truth. But he lied and said I'd taken the pills by myself. And of course, no one was going to believe me because I just tried to kill myself, right? So anyway, I was locked away for protection and talked to for weeks about my suicidal depression. Only Jeanne believed me when I said that if I was going to kill anyone, it would be my husband and not myself. Do you think they have any pie? I haven't eaten much lately because I was hidden inside the trunk of Jeanne's car for so long. Then I was too angry to eat. Is there a restroom here? Olivia was blinking so hard she had trouble reacting. Hide it in the doctor's trunk? She very much wanted to hear this story. She pointed out the restroom door, then raised her hand to the owner. She came to the table as Elise left. What do you need, Olivia? And I'm sorry about the waitress. She broke up with her boyfriend and is looking for a new one. She glanced up as Ray came back in. Is he available? No, not at all. Could you bring us a slice of every kind of pie you have? There are 6 of them. That's great, 1 of each. And put everything on Kit's bill with a 25% tip. You got it. She was watching Ray as he started back inside. If I were 10 years younger, with a sign, she took the empty dishes and left. Ray sat down across from Olivia, then looked at Elise's glass of tea. Did she show up? She did. Olivia was still trying to digest all that she heard. Is she crazy? I mean, she is one of Jeanne's patients. She's not crazy at all, Olivia said. Would you like to have some pie? I've ordered rather a lot of it. I'd love some. That's the end of chapter 1. Okay, so Elise and Ray are both married. He wanted to divorce his wife and she wanted to get away from her husband because he's a liar. Then Olivia's husband, his name is Kit, right? I had got confused when I was reading chapter 25. I was like, late husband, what the heck was that about? It said, when she turned away, she saw a younger woman enter the rest. Okay, no. Was it 25? It was something she mentioned about a late husband. I got lost. I was like, who? I thought Kit was Olivia's husband. Okay, so that's going to be the dynamics. It's going to be Olivia, Ray, and Elise in a house together. Okay, so it's really not much to say. And I shall see you in the next chapter. Bye for now.